Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Vacation by Rail's Canada by Rail webinar. We'd like to thank you again for taking some time out to learn a little bit about Vacations by Rail and about traveling in Canada by train. Vacations by Rail, is a little bit of background, is we are the leader in rail vacations around the world. We're celebrating our 10th year in business. We are the preferred rail provider for AARP. So AARP members do receive benefits when booking through us. And what we do is we pull together rail trips from around the world, in Canada, the United States, Europe, Asia, and we provide our customers with an opportunity to view all of those rail trips in one place, and our knowledgeable rail specialists, they will help you in choosing rail vacations that best suit your needs. Today we're going to be talking about Canada, and we're going to be talking about the various opportunities that people have to take the train in Canada. We're going to be talking about Canada's most popular trains. We're going to be talking about the top train vacation destinations. We'll focus on some of the regional and cross-Canada itineraries, and then at the end we'll open up the webinar for a little bit of question and answer sessions. Now, what we're going to do we're going to talk about the trains, and then when we finally at the end get to the regional and cross-Canada itineraries, I think you'll see how all of these rail trips fit together in these rail routes. So with Canadian train vacations and planning any rail trip, really, there's a couple of questions that people need to answer to make sure that they are choosing the right vacation for their needs. So the one thing you have to ask is, do you want to travel overnight on the train? Do you want to sleep on the train? Or do you want to have an all-daylight train travel experience? Those are two different types of experiences that people can have, sleeping on the train or just going by daylight in the train. And in Canada, you have both of those options. And when you get to your destination, what type of hotel accommodations do you like? Do you want moderate, superior, or deluxe hotels? And how long do you want to travel? Because figuring out how long you want to travel is going to really kind of put some parameters around the types of rail vacations that you can take and have time for. So what are Canada's most popular trains? The most popular trains in Canada are the Rocky Mountaineer, which is a private train that operates in the Canadian Rockies in the summertime, and it has 5 routes, generally starting from Vancouver or Calgary, with 3 classes of service. And we're going to dig into both the Rocky Mountaineer in just a second. And then we have Via Rail, which is the national rail line of Canada, and they operate trains that cross Canada, like Via Rail's iconic Canadian service, which goes from Vancouver, Jasper, and all the way to Toronto in between those destinations. They have their Prairies and North Manitoba service, which goes from Winnipeg up to Churchill. And Churchill is one of the destinations people go to when they want to go view the polar bears and some beluga whales or maybe the northern lights. They have the Corridor service, which is more of your business class, business and commuter train service that operates in the cities on the east coast of Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City. And then we have other eastern service such as the Ocean, which travels overnight between Quebec City and Halifax. And then there's this interesting service called that goes from Jasper, Prince Rupert, in the Canadian up north outside, heading west out of Jasper, and that's actually in 2 segments. That goes Jasper, Prince George, overnight in Prince George, and then Prince George to Prince Rupert, which is on the coast of western coast of Canada. So let's get into some of these a little bit more detail into the Rocky Mountaineer and Via Rail service, and then we'll take the information that we have and we'll then apply that to some of the vacation packages that are available, and you can see how you can plan a trip. Before we get on to that, let me just ask a couple of polling questions here to get this started. First question I'm going to ask is, how many of you have been on a rail vacation, or have you been on a rail vacation? Yes or no? So I'm going to open this poll for just a moment, and we'll see How many of you have been on a rail vacation? So the numbers are coming in. So it looks like at this point, looks like more than half of the numbers still coming in have been on a rail vacation. So we'll keep it open for another 5 seconds or so, and then we'll close it and we'll move on. But this will help me in tailoring some of the presentation to the audience. Okay, so more than half of you have been on a rail vacation. That's great. So let's close the poll, and then we'll move on here to talk a little bit more about Rocky Mountaineer. Now, Rocky Mountaineer is Canada's all-daylight touring train. Based out of Vancouver, and it travels in the Canadian Rockies in the summertime, generally from end of April through October. It's considered one of the world's greatest rail journeys, and it travels 5 routes. It's received all types of awards. It's been called the most spectacular train ride in the world, and it's won the World Travel Awards 8 times for rail holidays. And it's a spectacular journey, and it goes, again, in the daylight, so you're not sleeping on the train. It has a number of routes, and we're going to pop onto this route map here, and we'll be able to take a look at some of these routes. Grab a highlighter, and we can highlight some of the routes I'm talking about. So the 5 routes they have are Vancouver to Banff, in between Vancouver and Banff to Kamloops, and then on to Banff, Lake Louise, Banff, and Calgary. And this is the first passage to the west. The first passage to the west is one of the more popular routes Rocky Mountaineer has to offer. It's one that really you can only travel that route when you're taking the Rocky Mountaineer as a passenger. It has the spiral tunnels, and it's really an amazing journey. And so that becomes one of the more popular routes Rocky Mountaineer has to offer. Then you also have Vancouver to Kamloops, and then Kamloops up to Jasper. Now, this route is also serviced by Via Rail Canada on its Canadian service, which then continues on up to Edmonton and then on to Toronto. But again, all daylight service, and what happens is on both of these routes, people get off and they spend the night in Kamloops. And depending on the class of service, that dictates the type of hotel that is provided and the type of luggage service that's provided. But you would travel between Vancouver and Kamloops, spend the night in Kamloops, and then continue on to either Jasper, Lake Louise, Banff, or on to Calgary. So those are the most popular routes on the Rocky Mountaineer. They also have the Rainforest to Gold Rush route, which goes up to Quesnel and through the coastal mountains, and then up farther north in British Columbia and down through Jasper. And that's connected by the route out of Vancouver, between Vancouver and Whistler. So those are the main routes that Rocky Mountaineer operates. And this year they've started more regular service on their new route, the Coastal Passage, which connects people from Seattle to Vancouver. And it's a great way for people who want to experience the Rocky Mountaineer, but a lot of people may be coming off, say, an Alaska cruise out of Seattle, and then they can have this entire Rocky Mountaineer experience right out of Seattle up to Vancouver, spend the night in Vancouver, and then on to Kamloops or Whistler or Quesnel, and then on to some of the mountain towns in Alberta, such as Jasper, Lake Louise, or Banff. And then people will ultimately make their way to Calgary to fly home if they're traveling west to east. So keeping that route map in mind, let's take a little bit. Let's look a little bit more into the different classes of service that Rocky Mountaineer has to offer. Let me clear these out. So Rocky Mountaineer offers 3 different classes of service. They offer the Gold Leaf service, and they offer Silver Leaf service, which has become a very popular class of service, and then they have their Red Leaf service, and I'll go a little bit into each of those. So Rocky Mountaineer's Gold Leaf service is a bi-level dome car. So you can see that there's 2 levels here. On the first level, you have their dining room for that rail car, and then on the top level, you have a dome car which has wide seats, allows you to move around, and it's an all-glass dome. And it also has a vestibule that you can step out onto that allows you to get some nice outdoor pictures in the when you're taking the train. On this particular, in the Gold Leaf service, you enjoy gourmet meals such as breakfast and lunch on the train in their dining room on the lower level, and you also have wine and other beverages available, wine, coffee, tea throughout the day, and they have attendants on board who are giving narrations in the Gold Leaf car as you're traveling. So it's really a fabulous way to travel, and people, as you can see from this picture here, this gives you an idea of Rocky Mountaineer's Gold Leaf service, the Gold Leaf Dome. You can see it's an entire glass top of the rail car. And the other benefit of the Gold Leaf service is because it is the bi-level rail car, it kind of puts you above some of the freight traffic that may be coming, some of the tree lines that you may be passing. So this is really a great way to see. And what we suggest is people, as they're looking at their packages and they're trying to determine, where do they want to spend their money? Do they want to spend it on the train experience? Do they want to spend it on upgrading their hotel accommodations? If you have to make that choice, consider the upgrades to these rail cars, because if you're going to the Canadian Rockies and you're going by train, to be in one of these dome cars is really the way to do it, and it really provides you this awe-inspiring experience when you're in the Gold Leaf car. So what Rocky Mountaineer did in the last couple of years, though, is they've added an intermediate class of service on their train, and they've added Silverleaf, which is a single-level car, as you can see, as compared to the picture that we saw of the Gold Leaf service. And the Silverleaf is a single-level dome car, which offers panoramic views as you're going through the Rockies, and it also includes hot meal service served at your assigned seats. So it doesn't give you as much. It doesn't give you that high level that you would have if you were in the Gold Leaf service, but it still gives you those dome cars, so you get a lot of light, you get these amazing views, and it doesn't. And so it really is a great compromise between the Gold Leaf service and the Red Leaf service. Now the Red Leaf service, if you can imagine, does not have the glass dome across the top of the train. It has large picture windows, and it's just seating in the rail car, and it has chilled meals served at your seat while you're traveling on the train. So it just has windows on the sides, nothing on the top. So bear with me for one moment. So now we're going to move on from Rocky Mountaineer to Via Rail's Canadian service, and then we'll be able to take these two types of rail services and compare them through the different itineraries, and then you can see how these can all piece together. Now the image that we're looking at right here is Via Rail's Canadian service, and that's called the park car on the back of the rail, on the back of the train car. So you can see these are single-level cars with very sort of historic vintage streamliner domes on the top. So people sit on the or have their compartments in the lower level of the train car, and then they come up to these dome cars, particularly when they want to have some scenery, for example, in the Canadian Rockies. Now, Via Rail's Canadian service is this iconic journey. It's really one for people that people put on their bucket list. It's the Trans-Canada train. It's going between Vancouver and Toronto. It's 4 nights on the train, and it really gives people a sense of adventure. If you really want to experience the journey, you want really this authentic rail experience, sleeping on the train, eating in the dining car, going to the lounge cars. This is the train to do it. You can see they have their sleeping cars on the train. The way the sleeping cars work is they have two seats in the private bedroom. Those 2 sitting chairs convert to an upper and lower berth. They have an in-room sink and toilet. There's a shower down at the end of the hall. Your meals are included when you're in the sleeping, which is called Sleeper Plus class. You get to move about the train. You go to the Bullet Lounge in the back, which is in the park car. That's the picture that we saw. It's one of my favorite cars in the train because it gives you this nice perspective out of the back of the window. The curved back of the train gives you a nice perspective when you're traveling. Check it when you make your reservations. Ask a rail specialist if Ask a rail specialist if the parked car is available. Sometimes it is. It's a very popular rail car, and then you can venture down to the dining car. So it really is gives you this sense of adventure, this sense of journey, this sense of traveling when you're in the sleeping car on Via Rail's Canadian. And with 4 nights on the train, you have this amazing variation of scenery from the prairies to the cities to the Canadian Rockies. You have Via Rail also offers on a number of their trains lounge cars where you can go and relax and have a glass of wine, have some coffee or tea or a snack. They have those in the Canadian. They have those on their corridor service. So it's a great way to relax, get out of your chair, move around the train, maybe meet some people who are traveling as well. Their dining service is outstanding. One of my favorite things to do on a train is, particularly on the sleeper train, as you get up in the morning, you walk down to the dining car. They make you your breakfast, have your coffee. The scenery's changing. The sun, the lighting, I always really enjoy in the morning. It really, it's like looking out the window when you're having your meal and having this moving artwork. And so it's one of the highlights for me and for a lot of people who travel, and that's that eating in the dining car. And when you're on a sleeper train, like the Canadian, I think it even enhances that experience more because you're going from your cozy compartment and you're venturing down the train as it's moving and you're making your way to the dining car. And Via Rail's onboard service and their food is really special. So now we've talked about Via Rail, which has its various services like the Canadian, which is the iconic train that goes between Toronto and Vancouver, and then the corridor services that go between up through Montreal and Quebec, Toronto, Ottawa. Then you do the ocean service, which can connect you all the way from Quebec City all the way up to Halifax on the east coast there. We're going to talk just briefly about the top 10 train vacation destinations that people can go to, linking Via Rail and Rocky Mountaineer across Canada. And then we're going to look at some itineraries. And what we're going to do is you're going to see how you take these places where you can board the train and you can get off the train, and you can see how you can connect those up with hotel and sightseeing, and then from there you'll be able to see how you can really turn these into some seamless rail vacations. So give me 1 second here. We're going to see if we have any more polling questions. Before we move on, I'm going to ask a quick question about people who are planning their trips to Canada. So just to open up, how many of you are planning a trip to Canada in 2014, 2015, 2016, or none of the above? And this will also give me an idea of what people are thinking. All right, great. So it looks like a lot of people on today's webinar are looking for travel. We have a number of people looking for travel in 2014, and then we have a nice split between 2015. 2016, and then we have some people that are undecided. So that gives me a good idea of what we can be talking about here. Particularly at the end, we talk about when is a good time to book. So looking at the top 10 Canadian train destinations, obviously we have these trips, these destinations in the Canadian Rockies. So you're looking at these cities such as Vancouver or Toronto. They tend to be places where people will fly into and then board their train. So Vancouver, a spectacular city situated on the coast of in the Coast Mountains. It's the largest metropolitan city in British Columbia, and it's the third largest in Canada. It has Stanley Park. It has the totem poles in Stanley Park. Great shopping on Robson Street. Right outside, you have the Capilano Suspension Bridge, which people can go tour. It's 450 feet across and 230 feet wide along the Capilano River. There's Grouse Mountain, which you can go to. And it also is a great city that people will use when they want to connect their rail vacations with their Alaska cruise. So they'll take the train to Vancouver and then go up on their Alaska cruise, or they will take their Alaska cruise and then connect that off with connect that to the Rocky Mountain Air or Via Rail. So Vancouver, if you've never been to Vancouver, an amazing city. You have so much stuff happening, particularly along the harbor. You have the water. You have these this amazing skyline. You have seaplanes coming in. I mean, if you just have a day in Vancouver, and if you just walk along the harbor, bring your camera, take some amazing photos, and just see the activity that's happening. And with the mountains in the background, it's just a picturesque city that I don't think when I've been there you could take a bad picture when you're there because it's so beautiful. So when you get out of Vancouver, and we're going to work our way kind of here west to east, Vancouver heading west, you're going to be looking at the next popular places are, here's a picture of Vancouver. The next popular places that people stop are generally the national parks in Alberta. You have Jasper National Park. You have Banff National Park. You have these towns that are associated with those parks, and of course you have Lake Louise in Alberta. Jasper is the largest national park in Canada, in the Canadian Rockies, and it sees about 2 million visitors annually. It really mixes the hot springs, lakes, waterfalls, glaciers, and plenty of wildlife. People can expect to see things such as bear, caribou, elk, and moose. Popular things that people do in Jasper include Spirit Island, located in Moraine Lake. You have spectacular views of the Canadian Rockies. You have the Jasper Tramway. You have great connection from Jasper down to Banff along the Icefields Parkway, where you can then go out, take a glacier, go out on the glaciers on an ice explorer. That's the drive to Icefields Parkway is considered one of the most scenic drives in North America, and it makes its way down to Banff National Park and the town of Banff. You'll hear mixed feedback on Jasper and Banff. Banff, I think, is a little bit more built up. You might feel it's a little bit more commercial than Jasper. Jasper's a smaller, quaint town, and I think the nice part about Jasper, particularly on Via Rail. So let's say you arrive in Via Rail. Take Via Rail or Rocky Mountain Air, you're ending up in Jasper. It's right, the station's just a small station. The Via Rail trains, sometimes the Canadian, they'll be meeting up there as one's heading west, one's heading east, depending on the scheduling. It's really a spectacular, interesting place, and it's a small town, and it has much more of a kind of a mountain town feel, I think. Lake Louise, I think if you've ever seen pictures of Canada, this is the iconic picture of Lake Louise. You have the Chateau Lake Louise, which is a very famous hotel named after the fourth daughter of Queen Victoria. That's Lake Louise is named for that. You have the Chateau Lake Louise, which is right on the water, and it's one of those places that people it's a must-see for people when they come to this area. Whether or not they stay in Lake Louise or just go there and take some photos, take a stroll along the lake. It's one of the iconic images of the Canadian Rockies. People are drawn to Lake Louise because of the glacial sediment that's suspended in the water of the lakes. You can see that kind of gives it that blue lake. The Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise with its Victoria Glacier behind it, again up here, provides just an amazing backdrop for just relaxing, having a glass of wine, taking a stroll around the grounds. It really is a great destination. And the other thing too is that these places, like in Jasper, Lake Louise, Banff, and the Fairmont hotels that you have, particularly in the wintertime, are really dressed up in their holiday best, particularly during the holiday season for New Year's or Christmas time, and it really becomes a great way to experience that area and take the train during the winter time, Via Rail's Canadian service, and see the Canadian Rockies in a different way. So now moving on to Banff. Banff, we're looking here. We have the Banff Gondola traveling the top of Sulphur Mountain. Banff is an amazing town as well. It's a quintessential railway town. It was settled in the 1880s after the Transcontinental Railway was built and named after the Scottish birthplace for Lord Stevens, who was the director of the Canadian Pacific Railway. Now, the resort town and national park are really known for a lot of their outdoor activity, and there's hot springs there, and which put Banff on the map, and a lot of people travel by train to go to Banff and experience these hot springs. You may have seen pictures of the iconic. You may have seen pictures of the iconic Banff Springs Hotel, which looks like the castle in the mountains. You know, that's the hotel that's here. That hotel has a rich connection with the railway, like a lot of the Fairmonts do. It was built for the Canadian Pacific Railway. The 8-minute this ride here, this 8-minute ride up the Banff Gondola, gives you breathtaking views from a viewing platform. Gives you the panoramic views of the town of Banff and the Bow Valley. So, you know, spend some time in these towns, explore, go on some of the sightseeing tours to get out of the towns and into the national parks. You know, I think a lot of times people, they will take these rail vacations, and the way the itineraries are set up, and we'll soon see, is that you will see that the itineraries are take the train, spend a night in this town, and then journey on down the Icefields Parkway, spend a night in Lake Louise, maybe 2 nights in Banff. But people really should consider, if they're making this journey, to extend the stay in some of these towns for maybe one day more, to give you the opportunity to relax and explore. Because you can see there's so much beauty out here that to have the one day that moves you on to the next location, doesn't give it really the justice that it deserves. So as we continue to move along to eastward, the next city that a lot of people will stop at, it's a gateway city, is the city of Toronto. It's the largest city in Canada. It's landmark right here. The CN Tower is a feature that really stands out in Toronto. It has a great waterfront promenade. It has some wonderful museums and restaurants. It's really a great, clean city, and it's definitely a city that people should consider spending an additional day in if they can. They can do trips out of it to Niagara Falls. And the nice part about Toronto and staying in Toronto, if you're going to come here, you want to stay at the Fairmont Royal York, is the hotel that we suggest people stay at in Toronto, because that hotel is right across the street from the train station. So it's easy to stay there and then just walk across the street, where you can then pick up Via Rail's Canadian service or some of the corridor services. So Via Rail's Canadian heading out west to Vancouver, or the corridor service, it's going to take you to places like Ottawa. It's going to take you to places like Montreal, Quebec City. So it's definitely a place where people are going to use this as a starting point for their trips. So moving along, as we head east and up now a little bit north, as we go into Quebec area out of Ontario, we're moving into Montreal. We're moving into French Canada. It's the largest. Montreal is the largest city in the province of Quebec, and the second largest in French-speaking city in the world. It's considered Canada's cultural capital. Has their Notre Dame de Montreal Basilica, the old port. They have an old section of town. I think when you start to see the inspiration, the French inspiration in the city, particularly in the old town, there's some great touring that you can do, and it's easily connected to Toronto by train. You get off the train if you have the option to stay at the Fairmont Queen Elizabeth. That's connected to the hotel as well, because again, these Fairmont hotels, they have this connection to the railways, just the rich history of these historic properties. So Montreal, and we're going to see how these all kind of fit together in just a second. Then we go on to Quebec City. It's another iconic city. This is the the Frontenac, the Fairmont Frontenac, again another railway hotel. It's the castle on the St. Lawrence River. This has just gone over an amazing renovation that really has enhanced the experience that people have at this hotel property. It sits up on the hill overlooking the St. Lawrence River, and then you and whether or not you stay at this hotel or not, it's a must-see when you go to the city. Quebec is the only walled city in North America. It has must-see are their cathedrals, obviously, the fortified Old Quebec. You walk through the city walls, and it's just like walking back in time. It's an amazing railway town. Yeah, that's on the river. So Quebec is another. I mean, people use these Quebec City, Montreal. That becomes a vacation in and of itself, just traveling to Montreal and then taking the train to Quebec. Then finally, we're going to touch on Halifax real quick, and then we're going to see how all these fit together. So Halifax is the capital of Nova Scotia, and it's the largest city in Canada's maritime region. It has one of the largest natural harbors in the world. It has its public gardens. It's in proximity to Peggy's Cove, which is one of Canada's most photographed fishing villages. So there's excellent day trip opportunities out of Halifax. And Halifax is accessible by an overnight train out of Quebec and Montreal, and that's via Ocean Service. So that's the other overnight train in Canada. You have Via Rail's Canadian service, and you also have the Ocean Service, which goes between Halifax and Montreal and Quebec. So now let's just move on to some itineraries. I know we've covered a lot so far. We've covered a number of the main towns. We've covered Rocky Mountaineer, the all-daylight service in the Canadian Rockies. We've covered Via Rail with its iconic Canadian service between Vancouver and Toronto. We've also covered Toronto, Montreal, and then Montreal Via Rail's ocean service to Halifax. So we're going to touch now on how these things all fit together, because this is going to be how you're going to plan your rail trips when you start to look through the Vacations by Rail website, get an idea of where you want to go, or if you want to do something customized. So if we look at, we're going to start first with this Canada coast-to-coast trip, because I think it gives a good overview of how these pieces fit together. So Canada, our coast-to-coast trip really covers all the things that we've talked about. So I'll just grab here a pen here, and we're going to talk about taking this trip from west to east and starting out of Vancouver. And then you'll see as we drill down into these itineraries, we're really just talking about parts of this itinerary kind of customized. So we look, most people are flying into Vancouver, they're transferring to the hotel, they're spending a night, they're doing sightseeing. Now in this particular itinerary, you're doing the Rocky Mountaineer here between Vancouver, Kamloops, and Banff. And that gets you into the daylight service, spend the night in Kamloops, and that gets you into Banff for 2 nights. You do your sightseeing on the second day, because you're going to arrive in the evening. You spend the night in a hotel, do a day of sightseeing. The next day, you're transferred up to Lake Louise, where you spend the night at the Chateau Lake Louise. And then from there, you're transferred up the Icefields Parkway, generally with a stop at the glacier to do a ice explorer ride on the glacier. And then from there, you spend the night in Jasper, and that's where you board the 3 nights on Via Rail's Canadian service. So you can see this is a great way to do the mountains during the day, all daylight service, and then have that overnight experience for 3 nights on Via Rail's Canadian service through the provinces, through the prairies, all the way to Toronto. And when you're in Toronto, you arrive and then you spend 2 nights in Toronto. On this particular trip, we show how you can do a day trip to Niagara Falls and come back. And then from there, you would go on to Montreal, take the train, Via Rail's corridor service. I would suggest that you think about, there's 2 classes of service there. There's Via Rail's business class service, and then there's their comfort service. And the business class service allows for some included meals on the train, so it's something nice if you want to treat yourself to an upgrade to consider. And then 2 nights in Montreal, 2 nights in Montreal with some sightseeing. The overnight service on Via Rail's ocean service to Halifax, where you spend a night in Halifax. People fly home out of Halifax. You might want to consider another day there so you can take in some of the sightseeing. But you can see this 16-day itinerary really gives you a great taste of Canada from coast to coast. It gives you the Via Rail in the Rocky Mountaineer in the mountains for the daylight service. It gives you Rocky Mountaineer stays in Kamloops. Then you go on to Banff, and then you do the sightseeing in Banff. So you get to spend all this time. You get to do the Icefields Parkway tour that includes the Ice Explorer, and there's sightseeing in each of these cities. But you can see how the trains all fit together. Now, we're going to move on to some other itineraries. This is the Canadian Rockies by rail, and this is with Via Rail. And you'll see that based on what we've talked about so far, Via Rail goes between Vancouver and Jasper, and it's an overnight train ride. So that means that what you're going to be doing is, instead of spending the night in Kamloops, which would be right about here, you're sleeping on the train, and then you're going up to Jasper. So if you think about this, though, when you're sleeping the night on the train, that's like a hotel stay for you, right? Because you're spending the night on the train. And there's people always ask the question, well, am I going to be missing much of the Canadian Rockies if I don't spend the night in Kamloops? And the answer to that is not really, because here you're coming out of the coastal mountains and you're getting into Kamloops. When you awake, you're going to be in the heart of the mountains. So you're not going to miss much of the Canadian Rockies, particularly because you're going to have longer days if you're doing this in the summertime. So your days are already going to be much more extended than they would in, say, other times of the year. And so you're going to be able to catch in a bit of the Rockies here, and you're also going to have that experience of sleeping on the train. Once in Kamloops, what people do here, and this is an extremely popular itinerary, is that they then get to Jasper, they spend the night in Jasper, and then here they're going down the Parkway. They're spending a night in Lake Louise. They're at the Chateau or one of the other properties there. Then they're transferring on to Banff, and a couple nights in Banff and some sightseeing, and then on to Calgary, just right to the airport. If you think about it, Calgary's a large city. If you want to extend your stay, and a package includes Calgary, you may want to consider moving that to Banff and spending some additional time in the Canadian Rockies, because that's really the reason a lot of people are going out here, is to spend the time in the Canadian Rockies. So it's really a great itinerary, and it gives you that sleeping on the train experience that people like, that a lot of people want, rather than just the daylight service that you would get with, say, the Rocky Mountaineer. And then now we're going to talk about another popular itinerary that gives you kind of the best of all of these, of both these trains in the Canadian Rockies. So if we go on to the Best of the Rockies itinerary, the Best of the Rockies itinerary gives you Via Rail right here in the, gives you Via Rail between Vancouver and Jasper, and you're spending a night in Jasper, and then you get to transfer the tour down to Banff. And you spend 2 nights in Banff, and then you come back on the Rocky Mountaineer back to Vancouver for the all-daylight service, again on this route that really is only available by way of the Rocky Mountaineer. So you get the best of both worlds, as we call it. You get to sleep on the train, you get the daylight service, and then you get to experience Jasper and Banff. Now the thing that I failed to mention earlier as we started to talk about these packages, so far all the packages that we've talked about, they don't include, these are independent trips that don't require you to have a car rental. I mean, these are transfers and sightseeing transfers between the hotels in these towns, so you don't need a car in any of these. So once you're on your journey, all the transportation components, the transfers, they're along that journey to get you from place to place are included. We're going to jump now to another itinerary that I think is really an interesting and exciting itinerary, and it's one where people may have seen when the Olympics a few years back, a couple Olympics ago, were up in Vancouver. There's some highlights of this destination in Canada. It was the polar bears up in Churchill, and there's a polar bear experience that you can take out of Winnipeg. And this is 2 nights on the train on Via Rail's Hudson Bay service that take you from Winnipeg up to Churchill, where you spend 3 nights in Churchill. And you get to do a tundra buggy adventure that takes you out with some interpretive guides and specialists to get right up close to the polar bears that come to that area. Generally in the last quarter of the year, October-ish, is when you have the polar bears. People also go up there in some of the other times of the year to see the northern lights or the beluga whales in the Hudson Bay. So you can really have some great nature and great nature adventures, seeing some wildlife, seeing polar bears, and you're going out on these tundra buggies that have these huge wheels, and they just go right out onto the ice and you can into the snow, and you get really up close to close to the wildlife, and it really is it's quite the learning experience, an educational trip. Moving on to Eastern Canada. And so now we've talked about ways to see the Canadian Rockies and ways to connect that up with Via Rail's Canadian service to take you across Canada. But Eastern Canada in and of itself is a destination that people gravitate to because it's a great fall destination to see some of the fall colors. There's some great fall time cruises that come out of Eastern Canada that connect up to Boston that you can connect with these packages. But we're looking right now at the Maple Explorer package, which connects really four of the great Eastern Canadian cities: Toronto, Ottawa, and then in Quebec you have Montreal and Quebec City. So what a lot of people will do is they're going to fly into Toronto, or they can take, if they're coming from the States, and they can take Amtrak as a service between New York Penn Station and Toronto, and then you can go on to Niagara Falls, do a day trip in Niagara Falls, and then board Via Rail's corridor service between Toronto and Ottawa. You can spend some time in Ottawa, see the parliamentary buildings, and then again take Via Rail service along to Montreal, and then you're in French Canada, experience Montreal, do the touring, sightseeing, and then on to Quebec City. So you can see that how easy it is to link these together. And again, no car is needed here. You're going to be arriving at these train stations. In some places, such as Quebec City, a transfer will be provided from the rail station. Other places, it's as simple as grabbing a taxi over to your hotel from the train station. So moving on, we're going to talk about just a couple more packages here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you might combine these with some cruises, how you connect the rail packages or itineraries that you like to plan, or take some of these and connect those up to some cruises that are opportunities that come out of Canada. This is short tour, the Montreal-Quebec tour, 3 nights Montreal. As I mentioned earlier, people do the sightseeing in Montreal, really experience Quebec, take the train up to Toronto for 3 nights. So an easy package for people. It's a popular package for people out of the East Coast who want to just get away for a bit, do a very simple trip. The train is a daylight train corridor service, efficient, nice service that can take you from the city center to city center, and again, a popular place to go and explore French Canada with the historic old town in Montreal and the walled fortified city in Quebec. It really allows people to experience things like the 17th century architecture that you'll find, or the famous Latin Quarter, or the Palace Royal, or the Basilica in Montreal. So really a simple, easy package, very popular in the fall time. The last trip we're going to talk about, because then this will have taken us from breaking down the various parts of that larger Trans-Canada package, and you see how these all piece together, is the Quebec to the Maritimes. Really about the rail experiences here, a night in Montreal, daylight service to Quebec City, a night in Quebec City, and then the train Via Rail's ocean service for one night to Halifax, 2 nights in Halifax. And from here, there's other trips to take you to Prince Edward Island, exploring that area a little more. There's some trips too that you can pick up some car rentals and drive around Eastern Canada. A nice way to see it, and very popular. But you get to explore the famous maritime city of Halifax and its rich history, giving you some day excursions, seeing the Halifax, the Victorian Halifax Public Gardens, St. Paul's Church, the Government House are just some of the highlights that people see when they go to Halifax. So simple itineraries, really has this great international feel to it with the time that you spend in Quebec before you go on to Nova Scotia. So again, now we've covered coast to coast, and what we'll do briefly at the end here is I'm going to take you to our Vacations by Rail, vacationsbyrail.com, and just show you where you can find a number of packages. We've touched about the train, we've talked about the destinations, but when you go to our website, you're going to find that there's a wide variety of vacations that take these different destinations, add different sightseeing components to them, add different ways to experience the train. Maybe it's our Canadian Rockies by rail trip, but you'd want to do it by Rocky Mountaineer rather than via rail up to Jasper. There's a package there, the Western Explorer package, that does that, and it's a very similar package. It's just kind of swapping out the rail experience. But the other popular thing that people do is combine their Canadian rail vacations with an Alaska cruise or another type of cruise, such as our Eastern Canada Rail and Cruise package, which allows you to explore. Explore the Quebec area. Allows you to explore Ontario, and taking in a cruise that goes along with it, and it takes you in and out of Boston. The Trans-Canada by Rail and Alaska by Sea is another very popular trip. This is where you would take the Via Rail's Canadian service from Toronto to Vancouver and then board an Alaska cruise that takes you the Inside Passage. Those tours can also begin in the Canadian Rockies, where you can then take Rocky Mountaineer service in the Canadian Rockies, say starting Calgary or Banff, do the sightseeing up to Jasper, board Rocky Mountaineer service, daylight service all the way down to Vancouver, spend the night in Vancouver, board your Alaska cruise, or do the reverse. So you can see that there's ways to connect these packages easily out of these port cities such as Vancouver to the Alaska cruise. And what we're going to be doing in 2014, we've done in 2014 is we have rail and river cruises available in Canada, and that's another thing that we're expanding across our product line, our river cruises, along with some rail experiences, whether it's in Europe or the United States. Pre and post night packages, because you can see a lot of these trips, they end and spend one night in Vancouver, for example. And what you might want to consider to extend your stay is also, when you're in Vancouver, do a day trip or spend a couple of nights by taking the ferry to Vancouver Island, going to Victoria, visiting Bouchard Gardens. You can do the same thing on Eastern Canada, add Prince Edward Islands, which is a famous backdrop for Anne of Green Gables books. So when you talk to our rail specialist, ask how you may be able to take some of these itineraries and customize them, and then also add on these pre and post night packages before you, say, depart Vancouver or before you depart Toronto or Halifax. So there's it's really quite easy to extend these trips out and see some amazing scenery that gets you out of some of the big cities. So before we move on, I have a couple more polling questions. I promise this time I will close it so that you'll be able to see some of the last slides we have here. Just to see if any of you were paying attention, I'll launch quickly a polling question. What is the name of the iconic train Canada's iconic train. And looks like 100% of you got that. It is the Canadian. That is correct. Canadian is the iconic Trans-Canada train that people can take. 4 nights on the train. One more polling question. Because we are the preferred provider for AARP, we encourage people to let our agents know that they are AARP members. How many of you are AARP members? I'll leave this open for a second. Just a reminder, people that are AARP members, on all the trips that we have to offer, they receive a member benefit of 5% off the base package price, which is great. We're the only rail provider that is preferred with AARP. So if you're looking at a rail trip and you're not an AARP member, you might want to consider taking a look at that. It's a great way for you to save a little bit of money and take advantage of some added value that we only have for AARP members. So we have a special offer that I want to thank everyone for attending the webinar. And then before we close off, though, we're going to answer some questions. And because a lot of you are planning for 2015, I want to hop over to our Vacations by Rail website. I hope everyone can see this website. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if there's any. All right. Hopefully you can all see this, but I want to show you how easy it is to use our website to browse the packages that we have. If you're on our website, you can just go to the Canada drop-down, and what that does is it drops down various categories for you to go and pull up the different trips that we have, rather than sorting through the long list. So, for example, if you want to go to the Canadian Rockies, you just select the Canadian Rockies category, and then basically what it does is it pulls our list of packages. So you see the first one that comes up here is the Banff Beautiful Discovery Rail and Drive package. All of the trips that we've talked about today, they're independent trips that do not require a car rental. But some people like to have that car and go and explore off on their own, and the Banff Beautiful Discovery Rail and Drive is a very popular package that includes a car rental. But what you should do when you come to this page, maximize the results that it has and hit sort. And what it's going to do is it's just going to allow you to pull up all the tours that we have. And as we scroll down, you can see right now they're just in alphabetical order, and there's so many different options for people to go and view. If you want to just look at Rocky Mountaineers packages, for example, right now, if you look on the side, again over here, I'll just highlight this real quick. You can see here more categories for you to search by, right? You just click on Rocky Mountaineer, for example, and it's going to pull up all the packages that include Rocky Mountaineer. Same with Via Rail. You're looking to sleep on the train, just click on the icon, just click on the category that includes Via Rail, and it's going to pull up all your itineraries with Via Rail. And that's going to be the easiest way for you to go and learn, sort through the packages that we have when you're on our website. But of course, you can also request one of our brochures. Our brochure is not all of our product. It's just some of the more popular products that we put in a printed form so that people can flip through those. There's hundreds more on our website. Always call our rail specialists as well, because they're going to help you make some of these decisions if you're not sure of what you want to do or what you want to see or how you want to travel. They're going to walk you through what's it like to sleep on a train. If you have questions about packing, if you want to know, should I rent a car, shouldn't I rent a car, should I upgrade to Gold Leaf service, should I go with Silver, what hotels are available, they're going to be there to answer those questions for you, and they're all extremely knowledgeable, and they're going to be able to tell you the difference between Rocky Mountaineer and Via Rail and be impartial to that, so that you can make sure that you get the get the experience that you are looking for, because they are different experiences, and each person's in their mind has a unique vision of what a rail vacation is. So I recommend look at the website, call our rail specialists, ask some questions, go through some of the resources that we have as well. I'll show you that there's some other places on our homepage that might be worth taking a look at, whether you're planning a trip to Canada or you're planning a trip to the United States or Europe. But if you go down, we have these podcasts that are online that you can view. Amtrak's Great Rail Journeys, where we just do some interviews and talk with people about the rail journeys. We have Canada's Rocky Mountaineer. We have you can watch past webinars. You can talk about you can look through the various information in our information depot. So I encourage you to browse through our website. We're updating it all the time. For those who are traveling in 2015, the one thing I would encourage you to do as well is keep an eye out on our specials page, sign up for our email, because a lot of that, Rocky Mountaineer, for example, does an added value early booking bonus that they put out for advanced booking. So as you're coming into June, July of this year, end of June, beginning of July, go online, check out our website, look under the specials to see what's happening. So for example, they have an added value right now that's just for people who are traveling and book by June of this year for travel through October 24th. It's a free hotel night stay if you're going to book certain trips. Now, normally what happens is that these added value programs, they start way out, say June, July, August of this year, and continue to go as you continue to go and these added value expire. The next one gets launched and it's reduced a little bit more. So now we're talking about extend your stay with a free hotel night, but at the beginning it might be $1,500 in added value based on the package that you're looking for, and what that would include would be additional sightseeing, additional hotel stays, maybe apply towards an airline ticket if you can do that. So there's different ways to manage that added value, and you want to start looking earlier, or else you'll miss out on the best opportunities. And that goes with a lot of the things a lot of the packages that we offer. There are check the specials page. Make sure that you keep up on our emails so that you can be alerted to when the various rail companies offer added value or specials, or if Vacations by Rail is doing an early booking bonus where you may get a complimentary pre-night hotel on certain tours. So register. I encourage you to register for this specials page. And if you are an AARP member, also indicate that, because we have a special email that just goes out to AARP members that offers some opportunities that are not available to those who are non-AARP members. So last question I have before we close this up, and then I'll go back to what we'll answer some questions. Should be an easy one for everybody. What is the name of Canada's all-daylight service in the Canadian Rockies? And looks like we have it. We have the Rocky Mountaineer is correct. It is the Rocky Mountaineer. That's the all-daylight service in the Canadian Rockies. And let's head back quickly to our special offer. Mention this when you book your next. Mention our promo code CR Webinar 14 and receive $25 off per person off your next rail vacation. Just mention at the time of reservation to our rail specialist, and they'll make sure that gets applied. Now I'm going to open it up to any questions that people may have about traveling by rail in the Canadian Rockies. So if there are any questions, you can use the question function on the webinar, and we'll see if any questions come up. Question we have here is, can you get off the train at stops along the route? And that's a very good question. the way the rail travel works in Canada as well as the United States, you have these trains that may be running, for example, the Canadian during the summer months, maybe only operating 3 days a week. So what that means is that if you want to do from Toronto to Vancouver, but you want to get off in, say, Winnipeg, you have to plan for that. So you have to plan that in advance and realize that the next train isn't going to be there for maybe 3 days. So make sure that you have some well-planned activities to do during that time, or if you just want to explore. A lot of the packages that we offer on Vacations by Rail allows you to already has that built in. So if you want to take Via Rail's Canadian service all the way across Canada, but you want to stop in Jasper and see and go down the Icefields Parkway, go to Banff, we have our Canada by Rail with the Rockies, and it does just that. What we've tried to do is we've tried to take all those variations that people like to do and put those into easily well-planned itineraries, so it becomes easier for people to plan their trips and then do some customization, because things do get a little tricky because of the way the schedules work. Rocky Mountaineer, you cannot. Rocky Mountaineer, private train, all daylight service in the Canadian Rockies. Once you're on the train goes to Kamloops, then you're off, then you're back on the next day, and then you go on to Banff or Jasper, or if you're going to do the some of the other routes, it may be Quesnel. So let's see what else we have here. We have another question. Let me see. Does Via Rail's Canadian stop at Lake Louise or Banff? And the answer to that is no, it does not. The closest it gets is to Jasper. But people do, as I mentioned, I think the package that we just talked about, the Winter in the Rockies package. Let me see if I can pull that one up real quick. Or the Canada by Rail package. Canada by Rail package. That is a package that includes that. Let's see our Trans-Canada by Rail in the Rockies. So hopefully we'll have a map here that I can show you exactly how something like this would work. So if you look at this map, pop this map open here, you can see that the train itself goes Toronto, 3 nights to Jasper, and then you're off the train, and what we've done is we've provided 2 nights in Jasper, down the Icefields Parkway to Lake Louise, spend the night in Lake Louise, back to Banff, and then we do a transfer all the way back to Jasper, and then you do the remainder of Via Rail's Canadian to Vancouver. And so what we've done is we've timed it out so to make sure that everything fits, so it's easy for people to book, easy for people to plan, and then and it's all set for you. So that's one way to do it. The other opportunity, again, is to just connect out of Banff by way of the Rocky Mountaineer to Vancouver. But for those people that really want that overnight train experience, do the entire Canadian, this is the way to do it if you want to get down to Banff and Lake Louise. All right, let's see what else we have here. Any more questions? Your website mentions Gold Leaf Deluxe, Gold Leaf, and Silver Leaf. There is Red Leaf service, and that brings up a good point. Let me see if I can find an example of a package that includes Gold Leaf Deluxe, Red Leaf. Red Leaf is becoming with the introduction of Silver Leaf over the last couple of years. Red Leaf is becoming less of a popular itinerary. But if we go to, let me find one that may include, let me see if this one has it. Canadian Rockies Getaway. So if you go, for example, on the Canadian Rockies Getaway, I think this is a good example of how the pricing works on our website. The way the pricing works is you can see right now Red Leaf is highlighted. And if you click on Silver Leaf, then your Silver Leaf price, and then your Gold Leaf and your Gold Leaf Deluxe. Gold Leaf Deluxe really refers to the types of hotel accommodations that are available on the package that you purchased. A lot of our packages include things like a moderate hotel. If you're going to be, let's say you're in Red Leaf, you'd end up in moderate hotels. If you're in Gold Leaf, you're going to end up in Gold Leaf hotels. So typically at Gold Leaf, you'll end up in like a Fairmont hotel property. Red Leaf service, it may be something like, depending on the city, it could be like a Delta hotel, it could be a Marriott hotel, something of that nature. So that gives you an idea. The one thing that people should realize, though, is that you can easily switch this out. If you want to do Gold Leaf on the train and you want to do the moderate hotel accommodations because staying at the deluxe hotels is not important to you, no problem. Just talk to our rail specialist. They will customize this package for you, and they will make it easy for you to make those changes. So Red Leaf is there, but again, I think what people have found that the real value is to upgrade a little bit between Red Leaf and Silverleaf, and take advantage of the Panorama Dome car, and then make sure, if you still want the Red Leaf hotels, to talk to the rail specialist to make sure that you get the hotel accommodations that you're looking for. Let's see if I can see what else we have here. Do your vacations offer a choice of hotels in each destination? Can I upgrade those? Yes, we do. So as I mentioned before, you have the Modern Hotels, Superior, and Deluxe. You have Sleeper Plus on Via Rail's Canadian service. You have Gold Leaf, Silverleaf, Red Leaf on Rocky Mountaineer. Mix and match them any way you'd like. Mix and match them. On the website, if you're going to do online booking, you might not have that flexibility. Call our rail specialists at our toll-free number and tell them that you want to customize it, and you can upgrade or downgrade any of the different types of options that are available. Okay. Okay, that looks like all the questions that we all the questions at this time. I want to again thank everybody for taking the time, being so attentive, asking some great questions, participating in the polls. Take advantage of, remember to mention that CR Webinar 14 to get that $25 off per person on your next trip. If you're booking in 2015, keep your eye out, sign up for our email, follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Sign up for those different ways to get information from us, because we do have those special offers that come up for early booking, and if you're planning for 2015, it's something to take advantage of. If you have any questions, feel free to call our specialists. You can also send emails to info@vacationsbyrail.com, our rail specialists, or if you want to address it to myself, Todd, I'm more than happy to get answer those questions and get any information you need to help plan your next rail trip and make it a memorable one. Rail travel, obviously, at Vacations by Rail is near and dear to our hearts. Everyone here, we go out and experience the trains, and we listen to the feedback from our customers so we can constantly be improving the offers that we have for our travelers. And we look forward to you calling us, and we look forward to working with you and planning your next rail trip. Thanks.